Hey guys, so I wanted to give you a quick little overview on how to get your PowerPoint to display when you're in Google Meet. And it's a pretty simple process, but I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to kind of show you the difference. The only bummer. Hey guys, so I wanted to briefly give you a quick tutorial on how to present your PowerPoint during your Google Meet speech. I figured I'm going to use the fundamentals class just because it's a quick link and I happen to have it up, but this is good for public speaking as well. And I'm going to do two short videos. This one will be on how to get your PowerPoint up and some best practices. And then I will kind of go from there as far as also showing you a few other little tips on speech giving in the next video as far as video conference speech giving. So the first thing you want to do is have your Google slide up. And what I normally recommend is, first of all, this is going to work best in Chrome if you have that browser. I find that a lot of people struggle with other browsers, and Google Meet was made to work with Chrome, and so I have a tendency just to stick with Chrome, and I've never had a problem. All right. Also, I have the grid view installed, so the way my screen looks might look a little bit different than yours. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to, first things first, I'm going to open my Google Meet or my slide before I even get on my Google Meet. But instead of having it as a tab, which is how most people do it, I am going to pull it out and I'm going to put it on another window on my screen. Okay? And I'm going to make this a little smaller. I should still be able to read it, but I want it to be a little small so that I can see two windows at once. If you don't know how to get it so that your windows move around, if you are on a Windows machine, it is this button right here on either window that will make it either full screen or make it pop into its own window that you can move around by clicking on the mouse. I know that seems really basic, but there are some people who this is kind of not their thing, and especially if you're used to using tablets or phones, that could be different. That's another thing, is that this is going to work much better on a computer, on a laptop, than it's going to work on a tablet or a phone. If you're doing this through a phone, what you might want to do is, if you cannot get a computer that works and you need to do your speech, then I would recommend doing it on your phone and then sending me your PowerPoint, and I'll present, I'll be able to kind of put your PowerPoint up at least a little bit. Only problem is that when I click present, it's going to show my face instead of the speaker's face. So, but let's assume that most people can use a laptop. If not, reach out. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on this Google Meet. All right. And it's going to say camera failed because I am currently recording over here in this little window, and you can't really see it. I am also going to be muting my microphone so that it does not create a terrible, terrible echo when I click join. Okay. So you're going to have to pretend like this is my face. All right. That pretty L. Because it really doesn't matter. All right. But pretend like this is my face. What you're going to see is I'm going to click on present now. And it's going to give me two options: my entire screen or a window. I'm going to click a window. All right. And I'm going to click my slides and then click share. All right. And it's going to do this thing that says you are presenting your screen, and it'll say you are presenting to everyone. Now, what other people are seeing, you're seeing this kind of black screen. I'm seeing my, the audience is actually seeing your face and the actual image here. Okay. Now, by the way, it is totally okay if you just want to present your visual aid this way. Okay. And that's primarily because I think some people have some connection issues and things like that, and it can be kind of disconcerting. The other thing is that if I go ahead and click present the way I normally would, you can see that my PowerPoint immediately takes up, or my slides immediately takes up the entire screen. I can no longer see my audience. Now, some people go, hey, bonus, I don't have to look at people. But the problem with this is that, first of all, you're going to be very tempted to read off of this because it's the only thing sitting in front of you. And Um, the other potential challenge here is that because you can't see people, it's easy to start to lose track of time. So it's up to you. The one thing that you might do if your computer, if you don't have any connection issues, okay? If you don't have any connection issues at all, then what you might do is you might pick a specific image. Let's say I really like this photo. I can click present, show the photo, talk about it briefly, and then hit escape, the escape key, to go back out to this view. All right, it's totally your call. However, if you are going to show it like this, one thing you have to realize is, as you can see on your own screen, that this is very small. And I'm going to have to be very, very careful with how much, because even if I hold down the key, I can't really make it any bigger. It's going to be hard for people to see. So you're going to want to pick specific images that make sense to the viewer. All right. When you are done, stop presenting, and it'll go back to just the speaker on the screen. And then if you've got the grid view, you'll also see multiple people depending. Another quick thing that I have noticed people struggling with is getting back and forth to the chat, because people will be asking you questions through chat. So if you click on the chat window to bring up what somebody has said, because it's going to pop up briefly on the bottom, what you can do is you can click here to pull up this thing. And normally you give a verbal cue. You say, okay, hold on, I'm looking at the chat. And then when you're done, click in the big space and the space where the image of the person speaking is, and it'll go back to normal. Okay. So hopefully that shows you how to present your thing through Google Meet. Now, let's talk worst case scenario. All right. By the way, you can do this with anything. If let's say I want to show something else. Like, let's say I've got this web page here and I'm doing my thing on why you should have a really pretty website. I can do the exact same thing by repeating that process and having anything that's in this tab I can present, as long as I choose that tab in the Google Meet, if that makes any sense. Okay. Let's talk worst case scenario. All right. Let's talk worst case scenario. Let's pretend that it's speech day and you are loading up your speech, you're loading up your visual aid, and it's just not working. If you start to run into some really hardcore technical issues, your computer starts freezing, something starts happening with, like, you can't get your back and forth to your images, what I want you to do is try, okay? Give it a shot. If we start to have technical issues, I will pause your timer, okay? And then what I will have you do is just continue to deliver the speech, and then just send me your slides later so that I can grade them, okay? I want you to try to present with the visual aid, because honestly, learning how to share your screen and do all that kind of stuff is kind of basic teleconferencing 101. But if it does happen, I don't want it to freak you out, okay? Another thing is, if you are worried about bandwidth, you can put images into a Google Doc, which might be easier to page through when you share. That's another little trick that I've learned in the past. So don't panic, okay? And, you don't necessarily have to, if something goes wrong, we will take care of it, all right? I would much rather have you have a really good speech than have your visual aid mess up, and have you freak out. So you can certainly share it with me, and I will kind of show you, I can always look at it later. All right. Also, you don't just have to rely on Google Slides for for your visual aid. One thing that you could do is you could do some sort of live demonstration, right? You've seen people do YouTube videos all the time where they're doing something live, right? You can do that. Just keep an eye on where your camera is. You might have to adjust your camera in the middle of the speech. If you adjust your camera in the middle of the speech, like let's say I'm going to talk about let's say I'm going to talk about my Funko Pop collection, and I choose to angle the camera up to see my pops, I'm going to tell the audience, hold on, I'm going to adjust my camera, and then reach out and grab the camera and adjust it. All right. That's just good. It's kind of like, think about it this way. This is our eye. This is the viewer's eye, and you don't want to jostle them without telling them. All right. If you're going to demonstrate something, make sure that they can see your hands in the video. Now that sounds weird, but like for example, this is right here, the absolute lowest I can have my hands. Well, this is very high. This is actually right about my, if I put it's right about my nose level. So that's an unnatural kind of position for your hands to be in. And so just be aware that you might have some camera issues. All right. Let's say you're in your speech and you have a technical problem. The camera cuts, something happens. Step number 1, don't panic. Say, if I say, oh, you froze, I will stop your timer, okay? Because I'll have my phone, I'll have my timer up, and we'll troubleshoot the problem, all right? So if you freeze and you're using your note cards, take a little pen and make a mark where we left off, okay? And then just kind of, let's try to troubleshoot it. Worst case scenario, it's a really good idea to have a backup. Have your phone handy where you could call in with your phone, prop your phone up. One of the best ways to make a prop for your phone is to take 2 books. It's actually better if you've got thicker books because, and then what you do is you stack them like this. That sounds goofy. And then you can put your phone up against it. And you can build, put more books behind it, and that'll hold your phone up in a pinch. I've done that for some presentations in the past. Another thing is you can use if you have a cookbook holder, that can work. I have used a picture frame holder, like, those. It's always good to have your backup set up and ready to go. I keep this next to me whenever I do one of your Google Meet sessions, just in case I have to log in. So always have a backup, okay? Don't panic if you have a technical issue. And here's the thing, worst case scenario, let's say everything crashes. On the Google Meet session, out here, okay, is the phone number that you can call to call in. Worst case scenario, you can do your speech by just talking into the phone. It's not ideal, but it is a fallback of a fallback of a fallback. Okay, so hopefully that gives you some helpful things that you can use. Let me know if you have questions. Okay, see you soon. And in the next video, I'll talk a little bit about delivery on camera.